Hi guys, my name is Holly, and my other two group mates are Andrew and Sophia, and our technology that we focused on is software as a service. So, what is software as a service? It is one of three sectors in cloud computing alongside infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. And you can see on the right-hand side that infrastructure as a service is kind of the base for cloud computing, and it's a server storage network. And then up from that, platform as a service is more for application developers, and it allows them to compile applications together. And then software as a service allows these software vendors to kind of outsource their applications to a third party cloud provider, which then hosts the application software, allowing end users to access the application through the internet. So the history of software as a service and its creation, it basically emerged to enable small businesses or individuals who could not afford large enterprise software suites. In the beginning, the maximums for bandwidth and file size were extremely small, so it kind of limited the capabilities that you could use with software as a service. And it was also slow and unstable. And that happened in the early 2000s, as you see on the right-hand side. It's just kind of a background of how software as a service came about. And in the early 2000s, Concur created one of the first programs. And that's when a lot of these issues with the maximums for bandwidth and file size and it being slow and unstable kind of occurred. But as the market began to grow in 2010, over the years, software as a service eventually became more stable and cheaper with a lot more capabilities. So the first applications that we're going to talk about are communication. So Slack is a real-time collaboration software that allows internal communication between employees of a company. Its goal is to produce faster feedback so a team can produce faster results. And it improves operations by reducing the need for time-intensive meetings, email communication, and bottlenecked processes. So basically using your phone or an application on your computer, you can message and set up face-to-face meetings along with other things just to keep your team's communication throughout the day kind of seamless. So going off of Slack, Zoom is also very similar, but it focuses more on face-to-face and verbal communication styles. So Zoom allows for internal or external communication as well. So Slack is only kind of internal communication, but Zoom also allows for you to go outside a company or a team. And so Zoom kind of works through a system of data centers that are interlinked through private connections that are closely maintained and monitored by engineers. And it allows, Zoom also allows you to integrate apps such as Google and Microsoft so that you could sync your calendars into your schedule. Like if you were going to have a meeting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, in Zoom, you can see that like, oh, this is the link for the meeting that I will use at 2 p.m. and it will give you a reminder and such. But there's also an extensive app marketplace that can allow add-ons such as Slack that we just talked about to be integrated as well. And Zoom improves operations by eliminating communication bottlenecks within the team processes by reducing wait time and miscommunications. So another application industry is healthcare. And I don't know if anyone's like had one of these before, but a lot of doctors' offices now are doing it, or hospitals especially. And basically, it allows medical institutions to collaborate and administer healthcare to patients through an interface. And patients also have the ability to communicate with their healthcare providers. And the patient portal can also be paired with electronic health records systems, which further enhances the patient portal by allowing for electronic records of diagnoses, list of medication, allergies, and other problems that patients might have encountered. And so by having this portal and this hub, it improves operations by automating routine tasks, kind of like paying bills or filling out forms before you go to the doctor's office, paying copays and such. But it also allows patients to access electronic records. So if you were to have an MRI, you could obtain those results online, or just keeps all your information in one place. So it is extremely helpful by kind of reducing the need to call the front desk to get information. The last application that industry that we want to touch on is retail. So Salesforce is a customer relationship management software as service applications. Like, they have many different types that you can choose from that touch on sales, service, marketing, commerce, and information technology. But the one that we're especially going to touch on is Customer 360, which is a application that allows you to select like the right mix of solutions for any team in any industry, but it is especially well known for retailers. And improves operations by giving retailers access to a hub of all their information, and can save their retailer time tracking their business metrics. And similarly, Intuit QuickBooks, there's a specific QuickBook called QuickBooks Enterprise that allows retailers to control pricing, cash, inventory, orders, and payroll. And so it again improves operations by increasing efficiency and automating certain tasks. So after looking at all these industries, software as a service in operations is basically just trying to eliminate wait time with information, but also automating tasks to free up more time for especially small business owners, so that they can focus on more day-to-day processes.
Hi, my name is Andrew, and I'm going to talk about the advantages of software as a service. So one of the very first advantages is that it's cost efficient, and this is beneficial to startups and small businesses who don't have the time and resources and want to avoid high licensing costs. Maintenance costs are reduced as well, since the SaaS provider owns the environment and it is split among all customers that use the solution. There aren't any IT overhead costs and no upfront hardware costs and flexible payment methods. The cost and effort associated with new upgrades and releases are low. The next advantage is the accessibility. Users are able to access it on any internet browser at any given time, so this is very convenient for users on mobile platforms, and it makes it easier to retrieve data, because nowadays all phones have the internet, so it's convenient. It also takes less time to install, and there are less issues that may interfere with deploying the software. Users can also upgrade as needed. The next advantage is scalability. SaaS solutions usually stay in cloud environments that are scalable and are integrated with other SaaS options. So buying another software or server isn't needed. And also, you have the ability to scale your SaaS use up and down based on, the specific needs. The next advantage is that it's very easy to use. It already comes with the best practices and samples, and users can also test how well the software functions. The software or the upgrades that they're looking at in advance, which is also helpful. To see how it runs and see if it's like worth like upgrading or switching softwares. Next, I'm going to be talking about the future applications and development of SaaS. Currently, SaaS continues to grow, and by 2022, they're expected to go to 138 billion. SCS continues to find ways to make itself more versatile and accessible and meet the needs of the customers as quickly as possible. One way SCS looks to develop is through artificial intelligence. And when AI is paired up with SAS, it causes an improvement in the features. AI looks to use their resources more wisely and enable rapid customization through natural language processing. This will also help SAS become more efficient, and it will improve its ability to process voice control and speech patterns. AI enhances security and will enable its SAS to identify and recover from threats and breaches faster. The next way SAS looks to develop is through machine learning. Machine learning is used in SAS to automate responsiveness in customer service reports and applications. New innovations of machine learning will help create a level of intelligence and operational efficiency. This will also enhance the communication between the consumer and service to help faster meet the needs of the consumer. The next way SAS looks to develop is through vertical SAS. And vertical SAS focus on a specific industry and supply chain. And this is very useful for companies who are looking for a specific industry option that will allow them to quickly obtain data for that certain industry that they're looking at. And this is also cost efficient compared to horizontal SAS.
So there are many challenges that organizations face when using software as a service model. And three of the big ones that we found were security, integration, and functionality. So in terms of the security, there's definitely a lack of transparency as to where the data is stored, how it's protected. And we found that clients may have very limited knowledge surrounding the vendor's roles in crisis management. And so this can really make a client, particularly a large organization, very vulnerable if a security breach occurs. And so going forward and how to combat that, we would definitely encourage clients to ask important questions on where are the physical data servers, how is the SaaS vendor protecting my data, and what happens if there is a security breach. And a second challenge is integration. So it takes a long time to transfer, move, and integrate the necessary data along with the software as a service infrastructure. And so a lot of companies who are integrating this into their company's framework may not be able to necessarily wait the amount of time that is required to do this. And it does take them a long time to fully integrate the structure into your company. And if it's rushed, it can lead to productivity issues, and it also requires a significant bandwidth as well. So it's really important to have knowledge of this going forward with integrating this into your business model. And the third thing is functionality. So in comparison to other models, software as a service definitely has slower speeds because the data is being accessed remotely rather than through a local file. And so that's definitely a big trade-off where anyone can access it through the web, but it is going to take a longer time to access it as well. And the last thing is the client can't necessarily customize the functions of your SaaS. So a lot of the control really lies in the hands of the vendor and limits the capacity of the client to shape the model to their specific needs. This again, just reiterating that the vendor has really full control as to how the service is provided, what specific logistics are accessible to the client. So organizations really struggle to have something that's perfectly tailored for their needs and their organization. And then some of the external impacts while using software as a service models are financial security, economic industry viability, and it's really changing the IT industry and workforce. So as many organizations really shifted to using work from home and hybrid modules, SaaS really thrived because it uses a pay-as-you-go method, which makes it really easy to have a software model without the cost of having on-premise hardware. And so this is just further reducing overhead costs, and companies now don't necessarily have to pay as much to have physical structures on premises where employees can come into work as well. And then the second thing that's really impacting the IT industry as well is that a lot of the security challenges that are presented through the use of SaaS have also caused these companies to struggle acquiring loans through venture capital and also private equity firms as well as traditional bank loans. And so a lot of the press and possibly consumer distrust surrounding using these services just makes it harder for them to finance their operations and also prove that this model brings in real business values to clients. And so this has negatively impacted on their industry as a whole and really calls its benefits into question. It could also just negatively impact buy-in. There's a lot of growing distrust by consumers. You may not necessarily see the increase in volume that they may want. And then lastly, we really found that SaaS is actually changing the IT industry and the workforces from everything in regards to the requirements and responsibilities to working in an IT department to the benefits and how companies are really leveraging different talent acquisition strategies to market themselves to a growing workforce. So the SaaS is definitely changing the knowledge that's required. IT professionals now really have to have knowledge on how to configure these models, negotiate contracts with vendors, and how to fully integrate applications into the company's framework. And so because of this, the knowledge required to be an IT professional isn't necessarily limited to the technical skills, but it now is also interpersonal skills that are often found through business programs. And so we may see a shift in the industry as a whole and who they hire, and we may see a growing number of actual business students hired rather than computer science students, data analytics students, just because the skills are changing. And then SaaS businesses are also reshaping startup company culture. We're really seeing that everything from what benefits are given to employees to how they work are changing and is creating an overall shift in the industry. And so typically and historically, IT and tech firms as a whole have really had the professionals working on one project at a time, but there's been a growing shift in incoming millennial and Gen Z talent into the workforce that really finds this to be monotonous and finds it very boring. And so SaaS businesses are really just becoming trendsetters in the market and allowing them to work on multiple projects with a shorter time period. And so this is helping them attract talent as well. And the last impact is also the environmental impact. So while many SaaS companies definitely frame themselves and market themselves as more environmentally friendly, it doesn't mean they don't necessarily have a environmental and or carbon footprint. So a lot of their physical infrastructure is reliant on CO2, and that's limited but not, it includes but is not limited to the physical data services, the fibers and everything that really makes the physical infrastructure work and also not overheat so that companies can use it 24/7. These data services and servers are really harmful to the environment, and there have been studies that have equated their carbon footprint to that of a carbon footprint for a medium-sized home. So cloud computing also increases the electricity demands to again maintain and power those services while preventing them from overheating. So as the industry grows, there will definitely be an increase on cloud computing's carbon footprint as a whole, and it will just definitely be something that may have minimal impact now, but will definitely continue to as the industry grows.